It's time to talk about money and magic. That's my kind of M&M. Greetings, hatchlings. We are here to talk about a brand new spoiler from Ravnica Allegiance and on a wider scope to talk about money and how it's represented in Magic the Gathering, things of that nature. It's an interesting discussion that I want to have based on, I've got right here, the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. And in it, it actually talks about the different types of coinage that you can come across, who mints them, all of that. So I thought that we would talk about that as well as just some different cards that have represented money in different ways in the game, because money is actually represented differently on different cards and it has only come up a few times throughout the years. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about was actually the denominations, the type of coinage that's used on Ravnica. You have Zibs and Xenos. No idea why I said it that way. If you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, you know that they have a few different types of coinage. You have copper pieces, silver pieces, gold pieces, electrum pieces, and platinum pieces. And that's in the order of increasing value. So you have the translation here where not all of these types of metal and coinage are actually used by different guilds. Interestingly enough, there are 3 different guilds that mint coinage on Ravnica. Only 3 guilds are responsible for creating coins. Now, in all honesty, I'm surprised that the 3 guilds are allowed to do it in terms of, well, not the one. It makes perfect sense that the Azorius are allowed to mint coins because traditionally currency would be in the hands of the government, and Azorius represents the government of Ravnica. So them minting coins makes perfect sense. But also, the Boros and the Orzhov mint their own coins, and they don't all do the same denominations. For example, copper coins are only made by the Azorius and Orzhov. The Boros don't have that at all. Azorius have the copper Zib, and the Orzhov have their copper alms coin. You know, alms for the poor, or in this case, alms for the Orzhov, right? Then you've got silver 25 Zib coins, and those are minted by the Azorius. You have, oh, well, you know what? In this, they've switched it around where electrum is worth less than a gold, apparently. All right, that's a bit different. So you've got electrum being worth 50 Zibs, which is half of a gold piece. The Azorius essentially create copper Zibs, silver 25 Zib coins, electrum 50 Zib coins, and gold Xenos, 1 gold pieces, and it stops there. The Boros, they mint only gold Xenos and gold 5 Xeno coins, and the 5 Xeno coins would be used to pay like lieutenants and people with higher rank in the Boros military. And the Orzhov have a hilarious discrepancy that actually really fits the flavor of the Orzhov. They mint 1 copper alms coins, and then the only thing they mint are platinum 10 Xeno coins. So one of their platinum coins are worth 10 gold, and they mint platinum 100 Xeno coins. Now these are massively expensive coins. These would belong to only the highest clergy member of the Orzhov, and if these kind of things went missing, they would be out there looking for them. So that's interesting the way that they do this. If you want a representation of how much things would cost, I got a couple of examples here. A cup of coffee is 10 copper pieces, 10 Zibs, and if you wanted to buy, like, let's say you wanted to buy a pair of glasses or something like that, those would run you 25 gold Xenos, right? So if you were to look at copper pieces as like $1, a gold coin would be $100. So, but obviously that's not the exact way to look at it. It's, if you don't know how it works, the reason that coinage is used as opposed to paper money is you can trust coinage for exchange, essentially. It doesn't matter who has the coin, as long as it's minted by an authority, you know the authority that made that put a certain amount of precious metal into it, so the value is in the coin, and you don't have to worry about trusting the people that you're getting it from. Now, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to talk about that from the Guildmaster's Guide, but it's time to dive in to actually looking at specific cards from Magic the Gathering that involve money. Now, what I want to start out with is a card from Return to Ravnica called Conjured Currency, because this actually depicts Dimir currency, which doesn't actually exist. So, what do you get with Conjured Currency? It's 1 blue, 5 colorless. It's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exchange control of Conjured Currency and target permanent you neither own nor control. A bargain in Keyhole Downs is always too good to be true, is the flavor text. And when you take a look at the artwork, you can see that's indeed the case, because you have here an outstretched hand, and into it has been placed some big fat gold Xenos, right? Those would each represent a gold Xeno. Now, you can see when you look on the actual coins, the Demir symbol. In my mind, these coins appear to be minted by either the Azorius or Boros. That's what's going on to the person who's actually receiving them, because this is obviously an enchantment that's happening. And if you look in the reflection of the mirror, you can see that the hand, it's the exact same hand there. It's empty. It's not someone with two hands out. It's one hand being reflected in a mirror there, and the currency isn't there. I really enjoy the flavor of this card, because with conjured currency, you can conjure any amount of it, which means you can buy whatever you want. Oh wait, actually, that gives me an amazing idea. Hold on. There's more than one way to ensorcel yourself up a sandwich, my friends. Haha. Take one empty pouch. Bibbidi bee! All right, let's go get us a sandwich. All right, wench, I have returned. Are you prepared to make me a sandwich?
No.
Oh, hold on. I have money.
Money, you say?
Yes, sandwich time. Oh, yes, sandwich time, sandwich time. You're going to be so rich from this. Oh,
All right, here's your sandwich.
oh,
Here's money.
and here's your payment, wench. Yes, and off I go. Ha-ha, success. Now, wait, how the hell am I supposed to eat this? Oh, well, you know what? I didn't pay anything for it.
All right, let's check out all the money. Hey, it's empty.
All right, let's get back to business. All right, back to normal. So let's talk about the way that money is represented in Magic. Let's start out with some stuff from the early days. Let's talk about the Icatian Moneychanger, all the way from Fallen Empires, one of the most reviled sets of all time, because it had multiple printings of the same card, just with different artwork, which is something you don't see them doing anymore at all. They tried it with Fallen Empires, didn't really go over that well. They did it with a couple of other things, but overall, you don't see it happening that frequently in Magic. Let's start out with the card itself in terms of what it is. So 1 white for a 0/2 townsfolk creature, and the text says, Moneychanger deals 3 damage to you when summoned. Put 3 credit counters on Moneychanger at that time. During your upkeep, put 1 credit counter on Moneychanger. 0, sacrifice Moneychanger to gain 1 life for each credit counter on it. Use this ability only during your upkeep. So if you want to know what the new wording, if it was worded in the new way, it would say, Icatian Moneychanger enters the battlefield with 3 credit counters on it. When Icatian Moneychanger enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to you. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a credit counter on Icatian Moneychanger, and sacrifice Icatian Moneychanger. You gain 1 life for each credit counter on Icatian Moneychanger. Activate this ability only during your upkeep. So this is interesting. It's treating your life, your actual genuine life force, as if it's money. Also, the idea of a white card that deals damage to you like this is very, very odd. It's an interesting card. There are actually multiple, as I said, multiple pieces of artwork. The first one we're looking at is this weird abstract sort of, I don't know what art styles are called, but you've got the Icatian Moneychanger in the front. It's got a really dismal and dark feel to it. It feels like this isn't a guy you actually want to be dealing with, honestly. It's like, yeah, I can see why it might be costing me my life force to deal with this guy. The artwork, I don't have that much to say about it. It's really just a lot of like, it's a black and white to it, and just really kind of half abstract. But it's I don't know. I genuinely don't really like it very much, in all honesty. The other Icatian Moneychangers feel a little bit more like what you would expect, in all honesty. The second one we're going to look at here is this portly little guy. He's weighing something up. I guess he's figuring out what the valuation of this jewel that he's holding is. He's got like a, he's got some sort of pendant. It's weird looking. I don't know if it's supposed to be a necklace, but he's sitting there writing in his ledger the value of things. You can see he's got little stacks of money in front of it. It's funny because it doesn't actually make him seem like a terribly successful money changer. There's not a lot of riches displayed here, in truth. Although I like the fact that like you have separated the 3 stacks here in front, which would represent the 3 life up front, and then the other stacks off to the side are like, oh wait, never mind, that's not a necklace. I'm a fool. That's actually a weighted scale that he's using to measure out multiple currencies. I couldn't make it out at first, honestly, because it's half obscured by his voluminous robe right there, the sleeve of his clothing. It's interesting. So he's got this kind of like, I don't know, the face, everything about it is just, he looks hurting, he looks greedy, he looks like, honestly, he doesn't really feel like a white creature. He feels more like a black creature when I look at him, truthfully. All the money changers are unpleasant looking, although the third one at least looks more like, I don't know, he looks more stern and he looks a little more normal, honestly. His artwork isn't as dark. You can see he's standing there in front of a chest. You've got the iron barred window behind him. He's got a sack of money in his hands. He's got a bunch of purses hanging down. He honestly looks like the most successful. This guy, if I had to pick any of the artworks to genuinely represent an Icatian money changer, I think this is the one that they should have used. You've got even, you can see like the lining of his cloak is made of fur, and it looks like it's made of the fur of an exotic creature. This looks like definitely the most successful. That's transmitted not only by his garments, but also by his portly nature, right? Because in the time of fallen empires, things were rough and a lot of people were starving and having a hard time. And here he is, big old fat Santa belly, doing just fine. So let's move on to some more old cards. We're talking about a trade caravan this time. Now, these are from Homelands. And the artwork on these ones, well, let's not get into that first. Let's discuss what the card is. I just love the art on these ones so much. All right, 1 white for a 1/1. During your upkeep, put a currency counter on Trade Caravan. 0, remove 2 currency counters from Trade Caravan to untap target basic land. Uses ability only during any opponent's upkeep. This is really funky and flavorful. So in this one, the currency is represented, instead of by life, it's represented as an ability to access your lands, but only on your opponent's turn. It's this sort of, that gives the idea of trade. I kind of like that. You build up, it's like the caravan has gone to your opponent's lands and it's built up this trade, and it can use it as a resource to gain you access to your mana. The flavor behind it, honestly, is a little bit wonky, but I'll forgive it in a heartbeat, because Kaja Foglio, who I miss the Foglios, her and Phil did really fun artwork. And this artwork is so much fun. The first one we're looking at here, you've got the moon set in the background. You've got this chick on this gigantic white spider with all of these crazy eyes. It's just a riot of color. You can see the big caravan wagons with all their mystic markings all over them. The one in the front is being pulled by a crazy little white dinosaur. There's like, it looks like what might be like a crazy massive turtle in the back carrying things as well. It's so cool. It's just a big old riot of color. And you could look at this artwork for a while and pull out all kinds of details. You can see giant rugs that are slung across the back of the cart that's being pulled by that gigantic, not the giant one, sorry, the little white dinosaur in the front there. You can see the rugs that are tied to the side, slung over the top. This thing is piled to the brim with trade goods. And obviously they trade a lot of rugs. I love even that the wheels, if you take a look at the wheels of the caravan down there, even they are all ornate and painted up. This artwork is absolutely lovely. And this Homelands was another set where they did multiple variations of artwork. So you actually get 2 different versions of the trade caravan. And this second one that we're gonna look, it looks to me like, honestly, if you look at them, I think they're both part of like the same piece, essentially, where it was one long piece of artwork cut up and used for 2 different cards with the same ability. This one has a giraffe as part of the caravan. You've got the little, the chick in the front pointing, that's what I picture as like a Foglio standard. I've seen multiple drawings of chicks who look similar to that. So you've got a guy standing like this, holding up like a piece of celery or something, like on the caravan. And I do not know what the gigantic long-nosed furry thing is in the middle there with the chest strapped to its back. But it's always been the biggest eye-grabbing part of the artwork to me. I've always wondered what that big furry snuffleupagus thing is supposed to be. Is that a polar bear? Oh my God! I've never looked at the artwork this close up. There's a polar bear! They have all kinds of animals pulling it. This is so cool. There's so many little details. I love it. It very, very much feels like a trade caravan. And again, you go from money being represented as life to money being represented as ability to access additional mana on your opponent's turns. It's really, really cool. There's not a ton of cards that actually reference the whole concept of money and Magic, honestly. I think the funniest for me, though, and this is actually probably one of the funniest Magic cards that I've ever seen, truthfully. In terms of it's the flavor text that makes it funny. Otherwise, this card could go in any direction, but when you add in the flavor text, it makes it hilarious. So, Reparations, 1 blue, 1 white, 1 colorless. Whenever target opponent successfully casts a spell that targets you or a creature you control, you may draw a card. It's actually not that bad. Whenever you get targeted, whenever anything that you have gets targeted, and just so you know, successfully cast really just means cast. That's it. It doesn't mean that the spell has to resolve. You're still allowed to even counter the spell. Successfully cast just means they were able to pay the mana and legally play the spell. That's old wording. So, anytime you get targeted or any of your guys get targeted, any permanent you control, only you and creatures. Whenever they get targeted, you get to draw a card right off before it even resolves. So you could use the card you drew to counter it. This is really solid for 3 mana, honestly. Now, the flavor text combined with the artwork is where it gets hilarious. So, looking at the artwork, you can see somebody offering gold. We'll look at the artwork more in depth, but overall, you can see in the background, boom, there's a fire going on. You've got some people standing in front looking unhappy, and you've got a monk gesturing at a pile of treasure. And the flavor text says, "Sorry I burned down your village. Here's some gold." That is so funny to me, honestly. Yeah, when you look at the artwork up front, you can see these are obviously some sort of like, you've got a tribal warrior and who I assume is the leader of that village, right? Like, just from her garments, she looks like she would be a high-ranking official. She's got the headpiece. She's got like a sash draped across her. She's got ornate markings along, and I assume that's her like head bodyguard behind her. I look at this as if she's the leader of the village, and this is her bodyguard with nice, impressive scale mail. Now, there's no damage done to his scale mail. You can tell this is like the leader of a personal guard, and he looks so unhappy, right? Like, she has a half impassive face because she's a diplomat. She's there to talk. The monk that's standing here, he has a gigantic medallion. This is obviously a rich group that he represents. And so it's like, sorry, I burned down your village. We have our goals that we need to reach, but here's some gold to make it better. And the gold even has a glow around it. And there's a massive amount of treasure there if you look at it to represent the card that you get to draw. There's not only gold coins, but there's actually some other precious artifacts. They might be like vases or jugs down there. But either way, it looks absolutely fantastic. It totally fits all together. And to me, it's absolutely hilarious. It does like, sorry, I burned down your village. Here's some gold. Moving on, we're going to talk about curses now. We're going to talk about curses. The card that we're going to talk about, that spoiler, kind of actually feels like a curse. The only reason it's not is because it affects all your opponents. So it's a curse that hits everybody. But first, let's talk about the Curse of Opulence, which only affects one player. So, for 1 red, it's an enchantment aura curse. And if you remember previously, we talked about Witchbane Orb in a previous lore video that actually gets rid of all the curses and gives you hexproof. It makes you untouchable. So this card would actually get wiped out by that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and watch the lore video list linked at the end of the video to check it out. So, Curse of Opulence, what do you get? You enchant a player with it. Whenever that enchanted player is attacked, you create a colorless artifact token named gold. It has sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any mana, add a mana of any color to your mana pool. Each opponent attacking that player does the same. So this is pretty interesting. This is a card that's obviously more geared for multiplayer games. That's why you can see it was released in Commander 2017, because this is a very much, hey, why don't you attack this guy? If you do, it's going to ramp your mana. And I get some too. So it's genuinely, in terms of curses, I find the concept behind it to be very interesting. A lot of curses, like this is the kind of curse that you would think would be positive at first. Like, wow, my pockets just expend riches. But then when you realize the endless amount of people who will come at you, they realize when they charge you, they just get money. So you take a look at the artwork, and you have this guy. Now, they used him on the whole sequence of curses for the set. He's got that, he looks goofy to me. I never really liked the look of the guy. But he does have very fine robes. He's looking pretty good. Obviously, the curse is represented by the money just exploding out of his pockets. You've got all these people running up to just grab the gold that's flying off of him. And you can see how this would end up with him getting mobbed. I enjoy the colorful nature of it. I'm a sucker for colorful artwork. So you've got all the banners in the background. This looks like he's wandering through a city like Ravnica, so the setting that we're in right now. So yeah, and when you're in a city and you'd be mobbed by people that I think this artwork honestly would have been better if they had had him being mobbed by more impoverished looking people, because all these people seem to be half decently well off. If you look at the guy in the bottom left hand corner, his clothing looks fine. He looks well groomed and everything. You look at the chick over in the back right hand corner, again, she looks like she's doing just fine. She's got a fancy scarf on. She's got like a jeweled necklace as well. The hand reaching out in front looks like it is also on some kind of person of status and wealth. The only person who doesn't really look like he's super wealthy is just the one guy up in the back who's got his hand clawed in the wrong direction, in all honesty. It's kind of funny because the gold is all in front of him, so it's not even like he's grabbing at it. That's a fail there. So overall, I like the concept behind it, but I think it would have been better done if they had actually used poor people to illustrate like you're going to get mobbed. Like, just to have more of them, make more and poor, basically, is how I would summarize that. Now, that all leads up to today's spoiler card, which essentially is like a massive curse put on all of your opponents. It's pretty funky. And that is Smothering Tithe. Not Tide, Tithe. And if you don't know what a tithe is, that is basically a required religious donation. So you know when you go to church and they pass around the plate, it's a common thing with a bunch of religions to have a specific amount of people's incomes that they're expected to give to the church. 10% is a pretty commonplace one, where you tithe 10% of what you own to the church. And so that is the concept behind a tithe. This particular enchantment is 1 white, 3 colors. So it's called Smothering Tithe. It's an enchantment that says whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2 mana. If the player does not pay the 2 mana, you create a colorless treasure artifact token with sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. And the flavor text says, I await your donation. So this is a pretty funky one. Honestly, this is the concept where the enchantment causes money to flow forth out of your opponent's mouths anytime that they're gaining knowledge. It's interesting because his hand up here on his head kind of represents the drawing of a card, right? Okay, I'm increasing my magical knowledge, but at the same time, you've got the pain of coughing up all of these alms, just or Xenos, whatever, however you want to look at it. This could be any amount of currency. Honestly, it does actually look like gold coins. I think it would have been a nice touch if they added an Orzhov imprinting to them. If this is actually how the Orzhov mint their money, that is an incredible way to do it. But yeah, I like the concept behind the artwork. I like how dark it is. It's got a dark feel to it, which makes sense when you're dealing with being cursed by the Orzhov. I know this isn't technically a curse, but it certainly feels like an oppressive curse level card. I really enjoy it. The artwork, when you get up close, unfortunately, it seems like there's areas where it was kind of sloppily done. And it's just, honestly, when you take a look at the bigger piece of artwork, there's little areas where there are like these dots and things like that. And it looks like it was kind of, it looks like this was slapped together hastily by somebody who knew that it would be on a smaller card and hard to pick up some of these details. Now, I don't know if that's just a stylistic choice and I'm missing something, but I genuinely do feel like this is a hastily done piece of artwork. And it's not the most well done. It definitely illustrates the concept, and it's certainly a passable piece of artwork. But I mean, even when you look down at the guy's beard, his beard is all wonked and off to one side. Like, this feels like it was quickly slapped out in terms of artwork.